What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you the battle for Week 5 of Season 7 of the PPL, and this week we are up against Bill Standish and his Adelaide Honchkrows. And before I get into the team, just a reminder that if you guys like this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button, helps us out a ton, and let's do more cool stuff for you guys. And if you have not done so already, please feel free to check out the TTM Discord. That will be linked in the description. But anyway, on to the team. Like I said, we are up against Bill Standish and his Adelaide Honchkrows, and quite frankly, this was the matchup I was looking forward to least in the entire league, because quite frankly, it almost feels like a counter draft almost. Like, I'm not saying that Bill intentionally counter drafted me, but I'm just saying that, like, if somebody were to take a look at my draft and figure out the best way to, like, counter that, like draft mons around countering it, you would end up with something similar to what Bill has, because Clefable deals with the first 5 mons on my team with the Mega Gallade, the Garchomp, Mega Gallade, Garchomp, Greninja, and Zapdos. Clefable deals with very well. Scizor and Alolan Muck deal with Clefable, but Heatran deals really well with those two, and Serena, and also Diancie. And then he has, like, the rest of his team, like Shaman for Swampert and Diancie. Like, just basically, his team is so ridiculously good against mine that I'm going to have to play very, very well and take full advantage of every single opportunity that I have in order to win this. And I mean, even Z-Scolipede, like, yeah, I have ways around that, but Z-Scolipede, I know, is a huge, huge threat that I cannot underestimate. Latias, I mean, Keldeo, I just don't have a switch into. Like, I literally, well, the only water resist I have on my entire team is the Serena, and that does not take Specs Secret Sword well, so with the dual stab of Keldeo, Specs absolutely demolishes me. And then Mamoswine just, plain and simple, really doesn't have any switch-ins. I mean, even a defensive Scizor, which, spoilers, is what I'm bringing to try to take that on, is potentially 2-hit KO'd by Adamant, Life Orb, Earthquake on the switch, and it doesn't even need rocks, just straight up on the switch. Scizor can get 2-hit KO'd, so yeah, to say this matchup is rough is a complete understatement. That being said, looking at his team, Specs Greninja absolutely goes in, and I mean, like, Muck and Zapdos give him a tough time. Gallade can break some stuff down, and I use the word break lightly just because, like, Clefable is a pretty darn good switch in. Like, it can 2-hit KO me, and I can barely 2-hit KO it back if I get unfavorable rolls. So yeah, it's just going to be a very, very volatile matchup. I'm going to design this team around Specs Greninja and trying to win with that, and let's just pray that it goes our way. So the first mon I'm bringing is going to be a sub 3 attacks Mega Gallade. Surprise, surprise, I'm bringing a sub Mega Gallade again, but especially in this matchup, being able to sub up on the switches that it forces, like, I mean, it forces Heatran out, it forces Keldeo out, it forces Mamoswine out. Like, there's just so much that Mega Gallade can force out on his team that I can sub up and hit appropriately on the switch whatever he decides to bring in. Like, if he has Heatran in, I can just sub up as he goes into Clefable and potentially 2-hit KO it with Poison Jab. I have Knockoff for just anything else on his team, and then Close Combat just wrecks some stuff. Even Keldeo, I don't even need coverage or super effective coverage for Keldeo just because of how strong Close Combat is against him. The speed is enough to guaranteed outspeed Keldeo, just threw the rest into attack and maximized my EVs for bulk. Next up is my main way of winning, in my opinion, and that is going to be a Choice Specs Greninja with Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Water Shuriken, and Spikes. Now, he really only has one switch in to Specs Greninja, like a reliable switch into Specs Greninja, and that is Keldeo. Spikes is great because of all the switches that Greninja forces. I can wear Keldeo down so that I can eventually just start spamming Hydro Pump in the end to win the game, or Ice Beam in the event that, like, his ice resists go down. I can just spam Ice Beam. So, I mean, basically, Spikes wear down his team to the point where, I mean, maybe Scizor can win, maybe Greninja can win. Just, I want to be able to spam a move late game in order to be able to win that game. And Spikes, because I'm not running Stealth Rock on this team, I don't really have room for it just because of all the mons that I need to deal with him. Spikes is just the best way of wearing down the Keldeo, getting consistent chip without having to rely on hitting that thing with a Hydro Pump and letting it get switch advantage, etc., etc. Oops. Next up, we have a Spadef Zapdos, and this is one of my ways of not necessarily dealing with Keldeo per se. It's like, so basically the combination of Zapdos, Muck, and Serena is going to be how I prevent Keldeo from absolutely sweeping me. Because Serena can switch into the water move, Zapdos can switch into Secret Sword, neither can switch into Icy Wind, but Muck can take that very easily. So just basically the combination of those three will be my way of trying to deal with Keldeo and try to figure out what it's going to do and what it can, well, what it's going to do and what it will try to do against me. I know that made absolutely no sense, but I kind of talked myself into a corner and couldn't figure out my way out. But Zapdos is also my way of switching into like Heatran and Latias, because a Spadef Zapdos takes like nothing from Magma Storm, from Draco. Like a Life Orb Draco Meteor does like 50 to 60%. A Life Orb Draco does 50 to 60%. With pressure, I'm able to stall Latias out of Dracos. I'm able to stall Heatran out of like Magma Storm, Fire Blasts. Really just Zapdos is my main switch into those two, who would be a huge issue for me to deal with otherwise. Air Cutter is so that I can one-hit KO Scolipede after, I think it's one round of Life Orb and Spikes, I believe, is the calc if it's no invested Scolipede. I mean, I still have Scizor for Scolipede otherwise, but yeah, Air Cutter is for that. Volt Switch is just nice and spammable against his team. If I get rid of the Mamoswine, I can click Volt Switch, which still hits very hard from base 125 special attack, even uninvested. So, like, I can get chip damage off on the Scolipede, the Heatran, the Clefable, whatever he decides to switch in. Roost and Defog. Roost obviously for longevity, and Defog because I'm thinking one of the main ways he might try to beat me is to spike stack me with Scolipede, even though offensive Scolipede is very dangerous. A spike stacking Scolipede is equally as dangerous and could potentially destroy me in the right situation. So I decided that over a coverage move like Heat Wave or something like that, Defog was the best way to go with Zapdos. The speed is just enough for a random creep. The defense is enough to live Adamant Z Rock Slide from Scolipede. I believe just from Fold, not after Rocks. No way I would live after Rocks. But just the defense is for Adamant Z, Rock Slide from full. Then I just threw the rest into Spadef to take special hits as well as possible. Next up we have my Mamoswine switch in and my main Scolipede answer in Scizor with Roost, Bullet Punch, U-Turn, and Swords Dance. This also functions as a secondary win con. My main win con, like I said, is going to be that Specs Greninja. But this can potentially set up on Scolipede, it can set up on non-Flamethrower Clefable, but let's be real, he's probably going to be bringing Flamethrower Clefable. Can set up on, I mean, it can at least get up to +2 on Mamoswine. Keldeo locked into Secret Sword, I can get up to +2 on. Just kind of a way of pressuring him with while still having a defensive Mon. Like, I can have offensive pressure of Scizor while still having the defense and switching capabilities that it gives me to Mamoswine and Scolipede, so I don't just get automatically beaten by them. So that's what this set is designed for. The 20 speed is just enough for a creep, and then I wish that I could go a little bit of mixed defenses, but I cannot afford to. Scizor still has a very good chance to get 2-hit KO'd by Adamant Mamoswine's Life Orb Earthquake, even without rocks, just switching in like I alluded to earlier. So I just need as much defense as possible, put that roll as much in my favor as I can. Even then, it's still not even a very good roll. I think it's actually in his favor, but I need that opportunity so that if I do get a low roll, then I will be able to roost on up and have a chance to beat the Mamoswine 1v1 and not just get absolutely rolled over by it. Next up, we have my Clefable answer, my main Clefable answer, and also my initial Keldeo Scout Out, whatever the heck it wants to be, and that is my Alolan Muck with a Figgy Berry, and then Recycle, Knock Off, Poison Jab, and Clear Smog. So just Dual Stab covers his team nicely. I mean, Knock Off and Poison Jab, yeah, it's not actually resisted by anything, which is pretty nice, although Knock Off won't do a whole lot to Scolipede, but I do have Scizor as an answer to that. But basically, it's just kind of a buffer mon. It's kind of like, okay, not sure what you want to do here, so I'm just going to send in a Alolan Muck, take the hit. I'll be able to possibly recover back up with my Figgy Berry, and then just kind of scout from there, like Latias, able to come in on like a Specs Draco, eat that up easily, Figgy Berry on up, and I'll be okay. Same with Keldeo, although not easily, but then just knock off is super spammable against his team. Poison Jab is nice for potentially getting a poison on the switch in, and then Clear Smog is if Clefable tries to set up and get out of hand, I can just come in with my Muck, take the hit relatively easily thanks to being a Spadef set, and then just get rid of whatever boost the Clefable has. Now, the investment is enough to guaranteed live. So basically, okay, first of all, I have my speed creep, and then the combination of defense and special defense is so basically I can just guaranteed live 2 hits from a Specs Keldeo no matter what it wants to do. Like if it wants to go for a Specs Hydro, Muck can come in on rocks, take the Specs Hydro, get the Figgy Berry, and then be out of range of a second one. Same thing with a Specs Secret Sword. Just basically this Muck is designed to help me figure out what the Keldeo set is and then better deal with it once I do know that and know what move it is locked into. And finally, we have Serena for no other reason other than I need a water resist. Honestly, I don't want to have Serena on this team, but considering the team just doesn't have a water resist, I need Serena there to at least make him think twice about clicking Hydro Pump. Like, if I can even make him second guess it once and make him click Secret Sword to where it ends up beneficial for me, then Serena did its job. Its only job is to be a water resist in this matchup, and then maybe even just U-turn out, knock off some stuff. And then Trop Kick is there just because I don't want to have a Serena that's walled by Keldeo. Like, if Serena's going to be my switch into Keldeo spamming water moves, then I kind of want the ability to beat it. So yeah, that's what Trop Kick is there for. Knockoff, just get rid of item synthesis so I can repeatedly come in if I need to, and then U-turn is just momentum because he has like Heatran and Scolipede and Clefable, all of whom come in very easily on Serena. I just want to be able to use those guys to get U-turn momentum off of them and try to go into a proper switch in or something to take advantage of that situation. But anyway, I've talked for way too long. Let's just go ahead and hop on over to the battle. Alrighty, here we are in the battle, and I do want to go ahead and apologize for the fact that we are playing on Showdown. I know you guys have gotten used to me playing on Wi-Fi, but due to a miscommunication, and I will take responsibility for it, this was my fault, we scheduled for times that basically just did not line up, and especially when trying to battle with an Aussie as somebody from the US. First of all, why the heck is that my trainer avatar? I don't even know why that's my trainer avatar. That should not be it, but I just noticed that. But either way, like, just ran into an unfortunate situation with a miscommunication, and so we didn't have time to battle on Wi-Fi due to time constraints, so we just went ahead and did it on Showdown. But looking at his team, he brought all the threats. He brought the Sableye, which luckily I have 2 dark types, so yeah, it can do things like knock off Foul Play, but at the very least it will not be able to Will-O-Wisp me. And I do have... Oh, and the fact that those 2 can switch in very easily to it. Muck I have to be very careful about so it doesn't lose its Figgy Berries. That is very important. I'm thinking that Greninja might have to just lose its Specs if Sableye comes in for free, simply due to the fact that Greninja Specs are much more easy for me to deal with losing than a Figgy Berry on Muck. So without further ado, let's just jump on into the battle. I am going to lead with my Gallade as he ends up leading with his Keldeo. I decided to lead with my Gallade, and I'm going to pause because I don't have as much time as I normally would in a Wi-Fi battle. I'm going to pause. I decided to lead with Mega Gallade because whatever he wanted to lead with, if he wanted to lead with his Heatran, I have Close Combat for. Clefable, I can just Poison Jab, potentially 2-hit KO. Keldeo, if he wants to lead with that, seeing that I don't have very good switch-ins to it, it cannot one-hit KO me, and I will be able to knock off its potential Specs immediately. Same with Mamoswine, I can just knock that thing out potentially in 1 hit with a Close Combat. Sableye, I have good switch-ins to. Same thing with Scolipede. So Gallade just felt like the best lead in this situation to try to take advantage of whatever he might do, and he actually ends up leading with his Keldeo, which is beautiful for me, because like I said, I can just fire off a knockoff. If once I knock off his Specs, there's no way he's able to one-hit KO me, and if he wants to switch something in like he does with his Sableye, I will be able to knock off whatever item that thing has, as it turns out to have the leftovers. Now, like I alluded to in the team preview, I felt Greninja's Specs were much more... I don't know, they were much more expendable than the Figgy Berry on Muck, so unfortunately, even though Specs 2-hit KOs basically everything on his team, I am going to have to lose that, and then predicting the Sableye not to want to stay in, even if it did want to stay in to, like, recover or something to that effect, I could just, you know, stay in. Like, I could stay in, Hydro Pump, pressure his team, get more spikes up, but either way, the best play for me right then was to spike up, as Sableye couldn't really touch me. The best thing he had to hit me was another knockoff, which wouldn't have done, it would have done like 20% at the most, which, okay, I can deal with that, and then the sooner I'm in torrent range, the sooner I can two-hit KO the Clefable more than likely. So it was just kind of an all-around great situation for me to stay in and click spikes, as he does go into his Clefable, and this is unfortunate. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the switch into my Alolan Muck right there, as if he wanted to go for Moonblast, it's fine. If he was probably not going to go for the knockoff right there, as Greninja had already been knocked off, and I'm just going to fire off my knockoff. There's so many knockoffs flying around. Heatran comes in, I'm able to hit that thing very hard, get rid of his leftovers, which is beautiful for me, and then I'm just going to switch into my Gallade, knowing I can take whatever hit the Heatran wants to go for. Now, considering the Heatran is in, and I'm thinking it's going to want to switch out, I'm going to go ahead and sub up with my Gallade, as I thought he would go into Sableye, and I was tempted to just fire off a knockoff to try to, like, crit it or something like. Actually, I could have potentially even knocked it out just then by going for a knockoff, but I don't know. I decided the sub was better in case he didn't want to go Sableye, if he wanted to go Clefable. But at this point, considering knockoff is not going to be enough to KO, I'm just going to Poison Jab, fish for the poison, which I do end up getting on the Sableye. That is a great situation for me, as he is able to get rid of my sub. But at this point, I have the poison on the Sableye. I know that he's probably going to recover. He'll want to be as high of HP as possible so that he can continually switch in on Gallade. I'm going to go into my Greninja and start pressuring his team. Figure out what set this Clefable is, and yeah, that Hydro Pump does absolutely nothing. So yeah, that's kind of sad right there. I was hoping that it'd do a little bit more, but without my specs, and especially without specs, Greninja in general is a lot weaker than you would necessarily, well, than you would think, but it's just, yeah, it's not as strong as it would be with specs, duh. And I'm going to go into my Serena, and I was thinking that he wouldn't want to have Clefable potentially get knocked off at that point, so I just decided to go for the U-turn, thinking he had both Scolipede and the Heatran to switch in, but he stayed in Moonblast, which put me closer to range of my Figgy Berry, as I do just knock off the Heatran on the switch in, and knowing I can take even a modest Earth Power and get my Figgy Berry back, I'm going to stay in and just go for the knockoff, as he does end up going for the Flamethrower. Now Muck is in an amazing position, and I was able to knock him out. Now, I do want to point out, sorry, I'm trying to pause as little as possible in this game, but unfortunately Showdown just goes way too quickly for me to have coherent thoughts about my plays during the game while it's going. So the reason that I was okay with Muck having its Figgy popped, now it's 100% a switch into Sableye whenever it comes in, because Sableye can't even knock off my Berry anymore, and I can just like spam knock off Poison Jab and eventually beat the Sableye 1v1 or get rid of something else's item. So him popping my Figgy Berry is amazing for me. Also means that if the Clefable happens to have knockoff, then I can still switch it in and only go for Recycle when my Figgy Berry would immediately proc, and I would be back up 50% higher. So yeah, having the Figgy Berry popped is beautiful for me, puts me in an amazing position. However, unfortunately, this does give him the opportunity to go straight into his Mamoswine, and Mamoswine is a threat. Like I said in Team Preview, or Team Builder, there we go. Mamoswine is a huge threat. Now my Scizor can potentially take 2 Adamant Life Orb Earthquakes. Not with rocks though. Rocks are a big issue, so I'm going to make a very risky switch. I am going to go into my Zapdos as kind of a pivot, because I have no business standing with Zapdos. Just basically, I want to get Scizor in on an Icicle Crash rather than an Earthquake. So that is exactly what I'm going to try to do. If he goes for Icicle Crash, then my Zapdos is gone and I'm in a horrible situation versus the Keldeo. But luckily for me, he does go for Earthquake. That is fan-frickin-tastic, and now I can just pull the switch into my Scizor. Yeah, Zapdos did take a round of rocks, but considering that I'm able to get Scizor in on an Icicle Crash to where an Adamant Life Orb Earthquake has no chance to KO, this is just a beautiful situation for me. Now, knowing that Mamoswine cannot knock me out, probably doesn't even want to stay in, I'm going to go immediately for a U-turn with my Scizor, and quite frankly, this is a horrible play by me. So I go into my Mega Gallade, thinking that, okay, I can just pressure his team with close combat. Like, that's all I need to do. If he wants to go into Clefable, then I force him to use another soft-boiled. I can potentially knock him off, get rid of his lefties. I can Poison Jab him, all that good stuff. But it didn't cross my mind that he could be Scarf. Like, the play 100% when he went into Keldeo was for me to U-turn out with my Scizor, which I did, and go into my Serena. My Serena is at 94%. Even a Specs Keldeo would not be able to 2-hit KO me with any attack that he goes for, and I would just be able to U-turn out once again. I would know exactly what set this Keldeo would be if it stayed in and did Specs damage. And so, like, yeah, this was a very dumb play. Very, very dumb play on my part to go into Gallade. I had the freest switch of my life into Serena, and Serena, like I said in the team builder, serves no purpose other than a water resist to Keldeo. And so, because I made the risky play, I'm going to get outsped and knocked out by Surf. So, yeah, once again, stupid, stupid play by me. Should have gone immediately into my Serena and just U-turned out. And just U-turned out on the Keldeo. If he did Specs damage to me, well, cool, then I can bring in the Gallade now that I know the set. If he did not do Specs damage to me, I would know that, okay, this thing is more than likely Scarfed. This is a good opportunity to go into Muck and just Poison Jab or knock off. Just, yeah, bad, bad play by me. I lost my Gallade for no reason, and I lose the ability to pressure his team a lot harder than I would have. And I mean, admittedly, Gallade was outsped by Scolipede, couldn't one-hit KO Clefable, but Clefable is super annoying for me at this point, so even just being able to knock that thing's lefties off would put me in a great spot, but nope, doesn't happen. But at this point, I'm going to go into my Greninja, and I know that two Torrent-boosted Hydro Pumps, or a Torrent-boosted Hydro Pump into Torrent-boosted Water Shuriken will be able to KO the Keldeo, so that's exactly what I'm going to fire off. If he wants to go Clefable, well, then I just get another switch into Muck, and I will slowly but surely wear down his team even more. But he pulls the switch into his Sableye, and I'm able to knock that thing out with a Hydro Pump, which is absolutely huge for me. So Sableye is now gone. I'm in a great position. Keldeo is slowly getting worn down by the spikes, slowly getting into Scizor range more and more. So Scizor, if I can get up to +2 and I chip Keldeo down even more, like I think two more spike switch-ins and it would be in range of a +2 Bullet Punch, then I can potentially win the game with my Scizor. So that's kind of the end game that I'm going for. Like, Greninja can't pressure his team hard enough. Clefable will always come in and be able to take a hit. So my game plan at this point is get the opportunity with Scizor to be able to set up and sweep through his team with Bullet Punch and just take that opportunity and try to run with it. So I go into my Serena like I should have done in the first place the first time the Keldeo was in, as he goes for Secret Sword. That is not a 2-hit KO. Thank you, Impish Nature. And I could very well Synthesis right now, but the endgame is in sight. I'm just going to go for the U-turn. He brings in the Scolipede. Whatever he wanted to go into, I had a response. And I'm seeing my opportunity to potentially set up with Scizor. Now, I'm not going to do that immediately. Scolipede comes in. I'm immediately going to go for the Roost. I want to be able to switch into Mamoswine later, as it did not reveal to be a Band or Life Orb set. So I'm prioritizing HP, as he just goes for the Mega Horn, and that does nothing, and he reveals to be Life Orb. So this is great for me. I am going to try to set up on this Scolipede right here, as he does unfortunately get the flinch. Now, he's in a bad spot too. The only way he can prevent me from winning the game, well, first of all, he doesn't know that I have Swords Dance. I mean, I will reveal it on this turn. The only way he can prevent me from sweeping is if he goes Keldeo. But if he goes Keldeo on a turn that I Bullet Punch a Scolipede, then Keldeo is 2-hit KO'd. So Bill is in a very, very unfortunate position. Like, basically, he just has to win the ultimate risky 50-50 and try to switch in the Keldeo as I go for a Swords Dance. But now that I'm at +4, there is almost no chance that Keldeo can live a hit. There is a small chance. Like, if Keldeo has a decent amount of HP and I get the absolute lowest roll with +4 Bullet Punch, it can live. So considering that I am kind of getting low with Scizor, I mean, I'm getting chipped down quite a bit by the Scolipede, I was thinking that if he had HP Fire, he would have gone for that immediately as my Scizor came in. Like, my Scizor was at 69%, he was at 88. He would have gone for a Life Orb HP Fire immediately if he had it. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to try to get the guaranteed win. I'm going for +6 because at +6, nothing on his team lives. And because I'm already at +4, if Keldeo came in just then, I would risk it. I would go for the Bullet Punch. But now I have the opportunity to guaranteed win myself the game, assuming I don't get like double flinched or crit flinched, which I luckily do not. I'm able to get up to +6, and this will be GG because nothing on his team lives. Clefable showed that it is leftovers, it's not Babiri, so that thing's going down. Keldeo is 100% in range thanks to the Spike, so turns out Spike was all the entry hazards I needed for this game, and Mamoswine, of course, I think maybe even through Babiri will get knocked out if it is Babiri, but also because it did not show Life Orb, Earthquake will not be able to knock me out. So yeah, just had him in the checkmate spot when Scizor was in against Scolipede, and Scolipede did not have HP Fire, and Scizor will be able to clean up the game, and I will be able to take a 5-0 win in what I think and still think is the worst matchup for me in the entire league. So very, very fortunate to come away with a 5-0. Bill, good game, dude. Like I was honestly terrified until the very end. Until Scizor was at +6, I was scared. I really, really was. But able to bounce back from the unfortunate loss to Verd. We are now 4-1 and looking to... Honestly, I'm hoping to finish out the season with only one loss. That would be the goal, as that might give us the opportunity to win the league. So yeah, that was the game, guys. Hope you enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.